Okay, hi everybody. We're going to talk about boundaries today, healthy boundaries. We haven't done that in a while, and I don't know that we've ever done it as a specific topic on this webinar. I know I've done it with John Taylor and Matt Wheeler, but this is my take on boundaries, and Tami, I'm sure, will jump in as she feels the urge. So, a lot of people say, what are boundaries? And particularly addicts, we have no clue because we didn't grow up with them. They weren't modeled for us, and we really don't know even what healthy boundaries are, let alone how to set them and enforce them. So that's kind of what this is about. And it's also applicable to portray partners and couples, and any relationship you've got needs healthy boundaries. In point of fact, boundaries are a necessity in any healthy relationship. Healthy boundaries protect us from other people. They also protect other people from us. So boundaries are kind of a two-way street. Healthy boundaries are not about controlling the behavior of other people. I want to make that very clear. Healthy boundaries are not about controlling anyone else's behavior. Healthy boundaries are about my behavior in relation to other people. So, if Tammy's doing something that I don't like, I set a boundary with Tami, but it is going to be along the lines of, Tami, when you do this, it causes me to feel this way. And in the future, if you do that, I will respond by doing this, leaving the room or whatever. That's my boundary. It's about my behavior. It's not about Tammy's. I'm letting her know that she does something she never does. She never does anything that annoys me. We're laughing. I had
that's not
crap
true.
out of her this morning, but that's a whole other story.
We're in a relationship. Yeah.
So yeah, I let her know what it is that I have a problem with, and here is how I will respond in the future. So it protects me from her, but it also protects her from me. I've warned her, this is how I'm going to react. But it's ultimately, I'm setting a boundary, and it surrounds my behavior, not hers. She can still do whatever she wants, but I have now set a boundary, and she knows how I would respond. Healthy boundaries are also, about staying in our own hula hoop. That's a therapy metaphor that is often used. Stay in your own hula hoop. Addicts especially, we think we know better, and if everybody would just do what we want, the world would be a better place. And I'm 20 years sober, and I'm still convinced if the world would just behave according to my will, the world would be a much better place. But nobody else has any interest in following what I want. So I have to stay in my own hula hoop and recognize that, what I can control is me. I can control my thinking, my action. I can't even really control my thinking, but I can control my actions. And I have some control over my attitude. So I stay in my own hula hoop. I work on my own attitude and actions. That's my boundary with the world. The world can do what it wants. I don't have to like it. But I need to accept it, and I don't have any control over it. What I have control over is my immediate space, and that's about it. Boundaries both contain us and protect us. Healthy boundaries protect each person's sense of reality. Something happens, I interpret it one way, Tami interprets it another way. If we have healthy boundaries, I'm okay letting her interpret it her way, and she's okay letting me interpret it my way. We can agree to disagree. That's a healthy boundary. We don't always have to be on the same page, but we need to let the other person be on the page they want to be on. They also protect our physical selves, our thinking and reasoning, which goes along with our sense of reality. Our feelings and emotions. I am allowed to have my feelings and emotions. Tami is allowed to have her feelings and emotions. I was reading something today from Michelle Mays. It's something she had written. She's at CSCS on the East Coast. And she was talking about her own experience as a betrayed partner. And one of the things she said was, in my house growing up, only one person was allowed to have anger. That was her father. Everyone else had to bottle it up and do that. And then as an adult, she was in a relationship, she got betrayed, and she was so angry, and rightfully so, because her partner had betrayed her, and she did not know how to express her anger. And she also quoted a study, part of it was she had been raised to not express her anger. And the other part was she had been socialized to not express her anger. And one of the studies she cited was from 2010 in the US and Canada. And it was a large scale study. So it was a lot of people. 93.8% of the people surveyed said that women should never express anger. It's inappropriate for women to express anger. And I mean, basically 94% of human beings in the US and Canada have a belief that women should not openly express anger. So as betrayed partners, oh my goodness, I mean, that is an unhealthy boundary because it's not protecting a betrayed partner's feelings and emotions. It's not protecting anyone's feelings and emotions. It's suppressing them. Terrible boundary. So we need to feel our feelings and emotions, and we should not be shamed for having them. That's a healthy boundary. Most of all, as I said earlier, boundaries are about our own behavior, our actions and our reactions. So a big point here is healthy boundaries are not walls. Healthy boundaries are not about keeping other people out. They're about letting other people in safely. I want Tami in my life. Even if I'm mad at her, I want her in my life. So, and vice versa, we have really healthy boundaries for the most part. Even if we're mad at each other, we can communicate and let each other in, and we can do it safely. We can work through our problems because we have healthy boundaries. Not something I grew up with, mind you, and not something I have particularly been able to get my mother to agree to as an adult. Which brings me to my next point, is to have healthy boundaries. A lot of people think, oh, well, I'll come up with the boundaries that I'd like, and then we'll go into therapy and we'll negotiate, and there'll be some give and take, and we'll come up with something that we can both maybe no. That is not how boundaries are set. I set my boundaries. You don't have to agree to them. You don't have to like them. You don't have to follow them. My boundaries are about me and my behavior. Tami sets her boundaries. I don't have to like her boundaries. I don't have to follow her boundaries. They're her boundaries, and I certainly don't have to agree to them. Healthy boundaries are not a negotiation. Healthy boundaries are what we each need to do to stay safe in our relationships and to keep other people safe from us in our relationships. There's a whole bunch of stuff here, but I'm going to cut it off after this next bit. Brene Brown talks about boundaries a lot. I love Brene Brown. We all do. She says the reason we need healthy boundaries is they facilitate relationship trust. And this is after a big, long explanation of like when you're trying to implement boundaries and people rebel against them. So stick with them. We need healthy boundaries because they facilitate relationship trust. She writes, and this is a direct quote from Brene, I trust you if you are clear about your boundaries and you hold them, and you are clear about my boundaries and you respect them. There is no trust without boundaries. Now, this is particularly applicable to sex and porn addicts and betrayed partners, because what's damaged, we've talked about this, we talk about it all the time. It's not the specific behavior that causes the most pain in a relationship. It's the loss of relationship trust. It's the secrets and the lies of the loss of trust. Let me go back and reread Brene for you. I trust you if you are clear about my boundaries, your boundaries, and you hold them, and you are clear about my boundaries and you respect them. There's no trust without boundaries. So it's not just about becoming rigorously honest. It's also about setting and maintaining boundaries in both directions. Without healthy boundaries, and this is another Brene Brown quote, when we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we feel used and mistreated. And there is not a betrayed partner on earth who would disagree with that statement. When we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we feel used and mistreated. And it's not that betrayed partners don't have the boundaries. It's that they get trampled and they don't know, and they find it, and they feel used and mistreated, their boundaries are not respected. The relationship boundaries are not respected. So I could probably go for a whole hour nonstop. I'm not going to do that. Let's stop there. There's enough about
no, well, I'm going to interact, but I think then keep going unless people start having questions. Put your questions in the Q&A. But yes, and so Gavin Sharp did a webinar, which is on sex and relationship healing, December 1st of last year. I know because I've shared the link with so many people. But he talks about everyone needs healthy boundaries, and they're not punitive, but exactly what you were saying too with the boundaries are for my safety. So, one of the other big challenging things with it is your boundaries and my boundaries aren't the same. So I can't give you a list and go, well, if you use these boundaries now, Dr. Rob has talked about violence is never okay, so there are some that should be universal, but, as far as what do we need, and it hurts me when I hear people say, I try to hold boundaries, and they just get trampled. And I'm like, because yes, then you do feel betrayed, maligned, used, abused, whatever, but if we set healthy boundaries for ourselves. So it is up to us to hold them, it isn't punitive, but there needs to be consequences. If I say this is my boundary and you try to push on through it, then if I don't have the opposite, or if I don't have the action that I say, like, you're using the example of if this, then I'm going to leave the room, I can do that. So, and I agree with you. When you said thinking, I was like, I have no control over my thinking. I have control over my actions and reactions, and I can shift my thinking. If I'm in a place of negativity, I can choose actions that will shift my, attitude or whatever. So I can't control my thoughts initially, but I can control how I let them run rampant with me. So I use the serenity prayer as a mantra at times. I can only control my actions and reactions. I can't control anybody else's behavior. If Scott and I, if I say if you do this, then I'm going to do this, and he does it anyway, then I better live up to what I said I was going to do. Because otherwise it's not a boundary. Then it's, then it's just a sieve that's, and addicts are notoriously good at running right on through. So.
And that's a very good point that Tami just made. When you set a boundary, you usually throw some kind of action at the end, which will be my action, not yours. I will leave the room or whatever. A lot of people say, well, if he cheats on me again, I'm leaving. Or if she cheats on me again, I'm leaving. And that is a perfectly legitimate boundary to set, but make sure that this really is the final straw. Because otherwise you lose credibility with all boundaries. So as soon as you sort of let somebody sneak past your boundaries without doing what you said you're going to do. And another point to make is, particularly in relationships damaged by infidelity, boundaries will change over time. In the first couple of months, if you are going to be more than 5 minutes late coming home from work, I need you to call me. If you don't call me, I will assume you're acting out, and I will be very angry if and when you do get home. Okay, that's a really legitimate and often very necessary boundary in early healing. A year from now, that boundary may not need to be there. If you're going to be more than 30 minutes late, call me. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt for like 30 minutes to an hour. But after that, I'm going to make these. So the boundary changes a little. And all of our boundaries are in flux all of the time. Most of them are unstated. But when there has been damage to a relationship, we really need to state our boundaries, particularly around the relationship, physical boundaries, financial boundaries, emotional boundaries, what we're going to discuss with whom, how much, when, where, what we're going to say to those people sometimes. We're going to tell your parents, are we going to tell my parents, what are we going to tell the kids? These are boundary issues to discuss. I am not comfortable with that much disclosure. Can we reel it in a little?
Well, and I'm glad you brought up financial too, because I think that that's one that gets left off the list. It can be physical space and, a therapeutic separation in the home. So the boundaries are around the physical space and who's using the kitchen when, and, whatever. But the financial boundaries, there's often, financial issues as a result of addiction, whatever form it takes, but including sex and porn. We know lots of people who have spent lots of money on their acting out or under earned as part of it. So what financial boundaries,
and thank you for bringing up
need
the
to be set.
under-earning, because people always count what they spend and they forget to take into account lost earnings, lost promotions, lost productivity, all of that stuff. Yeah.
Which is a very real,
which is usually a much bigger financial loss.
Yes. So we have some questions. We may come back to more of this, but my wife is going through the grieving process for the relationship she thought she had for the last 18 years. I can see her hurting and see her pain. I want to support her and help her heal without agenda. Can you give advice on this or resource if I can access to do this?
I'll talk for a second and then I want to give it to you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Probably, here's the dynamic. Your wife wants you to be able to give her support, but you are also the person who hurt her. We call this relationship ambivalence. Dr. Rob just had an article on Psychology Today a couple weeks ago about attachment ambivalence or relationship ambivalence. And it's written basically for betrayed partners to help them understand the feelings they are having, because you are the most important person to your wife, probably. I mean, I certainly hope so. And you are the person that she would normally turn to for comfort when she's been hurt. But you're the person who hurt her. So there's this push-pull. She loves you, she hates you, she wants your support, she wants to punch you in the mouth. I mean, this is what's happening. And it is, in my opinion, my advice from one addict to another is you do your recovery work, make sure she knows you love her and you feel badly and you're working on it, and shut up. I mean, because that don't get defensive when she brings stuff up. That would be really helpful if you can avoid getting defensive. But she, and Tami, I'm sure we'll talk about this, she has a lot of other ways to get support that are going to be way more helpful to her right now, because you're not quite toxic, but there are moments when you're toxic and you can do more damage than good. So you gotta be super careful. And I love that you want to support her and help her heal with that agenda. It's just very hard right now. 6 months from now, less hard. A year from now, might be back to normal or close to it. There's always before the cheating and after. That's not going to change.
Yeah,
but
it's a new normal.
Yeah. So Tami, yours. I know you have.
Yeah, and no, it's all good. I put in the chat. I put on our website on sexandrelationshiphealing.com under the resource tab. You'll see previously recorded webinars, including Debbie McCrae did 2 in the last couple of months on the grieving process, and that would be great information for her and great information for you, so that you understand the stages. And you can't cheat and get through the stages fast. It is a process and it takes time. And she's grieving over 18 years of the relationship she thought she had, of the husband she thought she had. So it's just going to take time, and there'll be, there's ebbs and flows with it. It'll be like, like the love you, I hate you, all of that, the anger, and then, it's going to be okay. And then the anger. And I mean, it's all part of the process, and it gets less, but there will still be things that touch on it that kind of trigger the grief, but at some point, it's more like that shadow of it, not the whole, oh my gosh, the whole body grief. So it's a process. So I 100% agree with Scott, you doing the work that you need to do to be different, to show her that you are not the same guy that hurt her for 18 years, but I got to show you this. So hang on a second. So, one of the clients from from one of the first clients that came through Seeking Integrity Treatment Program. This is a starfish, and his wife sent him divorce papers while he was in treatment, and she had codependent aligned support. He did his work. He came through the program. And he followed his aftercare plan. He really did his work. As they were negotiating their divorce, they realized, this is a quote, that they had a deep and abiding love for each other. As part of that, it was really bad. The whole family, adult children, it was a mess. So the short version is they came back together again. He bought her for their anniversary a starfish necklace, because the starfish, when it loses a limb, it regenerates. It's not exactly the same, but it does regenerate. So the starfish was the symbol of their relationship moving forward. And they were kind enough to send me and Dr. Rob each a starfish ornament. And I'm grateful, because I see that in my office, and I am reminded that there is hope and there is regeneration. It's different, like I just said, it's the new normal. So the limbs are a little different on the starfish, but it's a starfish, and they have continued the journey. So there is hope. Not every couple survives this, but please know, the only way that you stand a chance is if you really do your work. And if she's getting her support, you can be there and hold the space for how she wants to. You can ask her what's going to be helpful to you, and honor what she says.
Yeah.
And just say, I'm here and I'm listening. It may be hard for me, but I'm going to be here and I'm going to listen. And I will do my best to honor what you ask for. Don't try to convince her of anything else. So that's hopefully without any agenda, that you're not convincing her of something else. So
yeah, thank you for bringing up that last bit about asking what you can do. That's the one thing I forgot to say, is you can ask, but she may say, give me space. And if she says give me space, you got to give her space. And to Tammy's point, a lot of couples, after they go through this, they heal, like the one that Tammy was just describing. They say their relationship is better than it ever was. And it's usually because the addict is finally willing to become honest and vulnerable. And those are the cornerstones of intimacy, emotional intimacy. If I'm finally, they're finally living up to their end of the bargain by being honest and vulnerable and talking about, showing their real selves, warts and all, instead of just only showing the facade of the good stuff, which is what addicts are very, very good at. And to Tammy's, to more on that point, there's a Japanese art form called kintsugi, I believe. And what they do is they make pottery and then they break it, either intentionally or unintentionally, and then they repair it using usually precious metals. So the joints have like little precious metals, and the pottery is actually more valued after the break with the repair, because it shows that it's, number one, it's stronger in the repair bits than it was because of the metal in there. And number two, it's usually more beautiful and more interesting and more multifaceted. We're more interesting as people when we're flawed. Somebody comes in and they have like that perfect airbrushed look, and I'm sorry, I'm just like, ew, it's just boring. I want a little character. Thank you very much. And I think most people do, and that's more than just physical. It's emotional and how we conduct ourselves. We need to have some flaws to be interesting. If we were all perfect,
we all have flaws.
Oh yeah, we do.
But owning them. But yeah, I'm with you. It's like somebody who's airbrushed doesn't look real, and or the whole facade of like I'm putting up on Facebook and making my life look perfect. Well, every time I see that, I go, oh, that's just a facade, because nobody's life is that perfect. And I don't even want to compare myself to those. I hear often too that partners in particular, I want to go back to the way it was. And I was like, no, you really don't. You really don't. Like, I know that was comfortable, but you were you were not in the loop. There was this whole secret life and all of that. And so eyes wide open, being in a relationship with somebody who is, and I referred to Mary Fran's webinar earlier, but she was talking about, the new relationship is built on, on different, and it's working together of how does this relationship work, communicating, like it's all these things that the other relationship wasn't, because it's real, not the fake airbrushed. So hopefully that's useful for your journey in the moment. The next question: my addicted partner has ongoing euphoric recall. How do I set a boundary that nobody else in our marriage bed will respect to his thoughts as well?
Great question. Type some more questions in for us so we can answer them. This is one that comes up a lot. I get asked this question by addicts a lot, particularly in my porn work groups. They want to know, but also, what, it's also in the sex addiction groups. They want to know, if and when my wife and I are going to be sexual again, or husband if they're gay. How do I keep those thoughts out of my head? Because I don't want to cheat on my partner again, and I especially don't want to do it when I'm in bed with my partner. That seems incredibly hurtful for me. And they're right. And I think betrayed partners know, one of the complaints that betrayed partners sometimes make is, you're not really here. It's like you're off in la la land, and we're trying to make love here. And the addicts, when they're truly in recovery, they don't want euphoric recall popping into their head any more than the betrayed partner does. And they don't want it at any time any more than the betrayed partner does. It's very hard to avoid, particularly early in recovery. There are some tools for the addict, like the 3-second rule. I get 3-second rule. I have 3 seconds to humanize that person or to think about something else, or once I recognize that I'm doing this. But euphoric recall, once something is in our arousal template, I almost was going to talk about arousal templates tonight, but once something gets in our arousal template, it doesn't leave. And this is why this happens so much with porn addicts is there is so much stuff online that never even occurs to most of us until suddenly we click on something and there it is. And we realize, oh, that's kind of a turn on. And then it's in the arousal template. I haven't seen porn in 20 years. It's still in my head. I wish it wasn't still in my head, but now that I just said that, I'm like having pictures like zap through my head because they're etched into my brain. I wish they would go away. But I don't have to let them in. When I don't want them in, I don't have to give them play. But it's hard, and it takes effort from the addict, and it takes some time away from pornography, and sometimes altogether from sex. I mean, one of the things we have guys do when they first arrive in treatment for inpatient is sign a celibacy contract, or an abstinence contract, I think we call it. But no masturbation, no sex with self or others at all while you're in treatment. And usually as part of the aftercare plan, that is like, we think you should extend this for 30 days or 60 days or whatever it is, which affects the betrayed partner too, because they may be feeling sexual and the addict's like, no, I can't, I promise that, but the reason we do that is so the addict can clear some of the clutter out of his head. So you guys may need to go 60, 90 days, even 6 months with zero sex, including zero sex masturbation for him. You could masturbate. But he's the addict. So this is a boundary issue. And you said, how do I set a boundary that nobody else, if you're going to be sexual, the boundary would be something like, when we are making love, I need you to have your eyes open and to be either looking at me or talking to me. And if you feel some obtrusive thought popping into your head, I would like for you to simply say, can we pause for a minute and just talk? I'm having an intrusive thought and I don't want it to intrude when I'm with you. I don't want it to intrude ever, but I especially don't want it to intrude when I'm with you. And then the boundary that he might have is, okay, now when that happens, please don't get mad at me. I mean, that's not really a very well stated boundary, but it's like, the boundary is if I do that and I'm honest about that, I trust that you will engage with me and talk and help me work through it. And whether we pick up sex after that or not, doesn't matter. What matters is that we're being honest with each other and we're having a real conversation about what's happening. And we both have the same goal, which is for us to have emotionally intimate physical intimacy, which is the best sex you're ever going to have. Tammy, thoughts? That was a
No,
long
that was really well. No, I really appreciate that. And it was practical. And you, like you said, you are working with the guys that are, struggling with this. I did put in the chat the link because we have work groups, like you mentioned, the porn addiction 101 level 1, sex addiction 101 level 1. We have the betrayed partner group. It's almost full, but that's starting June 8th. There's a few spots left. So those are on the Seeking Integrity site under work groups. And then Out of the Doghouse, for men who've been caught cheating. But what you're talking about is really practical information. So for guys that have not done those, either of those work groups, and we do distinguish between the porn addiction and the sex addiction. Many of the guys with sex addiction also struggle with porn addiction, but the porn addiction is for people who have had, it's online, it is not, sex workers or affair partners, or, it is contained. Doesn't mean it's not cheating. I'm not saying that, but it's like going to NA versus AA. There's a little bit of distinction. At the end of the day, we're still all looking to get, recovery. So check those out. Again, the Betrayed Partner starts June 8th and is pro-dependent, aligned, and really good content. So.
And I just want to pause for a second and pull out of the chat feature. Tammy, your blouse is beautiful, which I noticed your blouse earlier.
Yeah.
And I noticed nobody's commenting on my gross Puma t-shirt, which I'm wearing because it has a cat on it. And I like cats and I haven't shaved it. So, please don't comment on
but
my
thank
shirt.
you. Yeah. I have my wardrobe of V-neck solid color, and today I was like, I need a little more interest. So thank you for commenting. So okay. The next question is, I am selfish. This is an addict. Even when I'm thinking outwardly focused, it's really related to how it affects me. When I think of recovery, I think of how positive my life can be. When I think of relapse, I fear the consequences for me, not my wife or kids. I hate this about myself. How can I genuinely outwardly focus?
Practice, practice, practice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the answer. You literally have to force yourself to pause and say, I think you might be feeling this right now. Is that correct? And if not, can you correct me? And then your wife or the other person can say, no, what I'm really feeling is this. And, but to be able to do that effectively, and this is the kicker for addicts, is we have to be able to identify our own feelings first. And most of us can't. When I was new to recovery, my therapist would hold up an emoji chart. This was 20 plus years ago. We didn't have the word emoji yet, but that's what it was. It was like a smiley face and a sad face. And, and it had words like depressed, anxious, fearful, and it was a whole sheet of these. And he would make me point at 3 of them at the beginning of every session, because I was so out of touch with my feelings. It's why we're addicts. We don't want to feel. So we numb out, we escape our feelings with our addiction. And it's, I don't want to dig into the whole neurobiology today, but we escape. So we have to start learning to identify our own feelings. And at the same time, we can start asking, particularly a wife or partner, I can tell you're upset. I think it's because I said this and it triggered thoughts of this. I think you're probably feeling this. Can you please tell me if I'm right and correct me if I'm wrong? I really want to know. And you can tell her, I'm really self-centered right now. It's how addicts get. We become narcissists, or with our behavior, not necessarily clinical narcissists, which is like a permanent, psychological disorder, but we sure look like them. And you can say, I know I'm totally self-focused right now. I'm not happy about it. I'm working on it. Will you please help me? And practice. And it's going to take a year. It is.
It does take time. Yeah. But hopefully you're doing a 10th step, and every day you're looking at, you're taking your personal inventory. That's how we change, is we take our personal inventory.
Yeah,
You know,
steps 4 through 9, and then 10 on a daily basis if you're in 12-step recovery, which you should be if you're not. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, but it's how we can look at it and go, oh, I could have done that better. I could have done that differently, you know? And it isn't, you know, like, oh, I've messed up the world and so bad. No, but it's just like, it's an opportunity to go, you know, there's room for improvement. And tomorrow I'm going to, you know, get up and I'm going to be just a little more intentional. And, you know, write it on your hand, ask her how she feels, you know, I mean, whatever you have to do, you know, set calendar reminders, you know, I mean, whatever you have to do. But it is, you know, being intentional, you know, about, you know, and so early in recovery, one of the old timers at the table, you know, well, I won't go into that, but he said, you know, we're a real small package if we're all wrapped up in ourselves. And it took me a bit to figure it out, but he's right. It's like, I've got nothing to give the world if I'm so focused on myself. And it's not joyful. I have learned that, you know, I mean, I'd rather be in, you know, in relationships as messy as they are, with conflict and everything else, but that's also where the real joy is. So it was a gift to myself when I started, you know, being able to get out of my own little small package, you know. So I would encourage you to be intentional every single day, looking at, you know, where were you selfish, you know, when you were thinking about that? Because if you start doing that, that's practicing doing something differently, because you're going to go, oh, you know, and then you're going to start catching yourself in the moment of going, you know, I can pause and take an extra second and go, you know, Scott, tell me how you're feeling. You know, from your face, it looks like you're struggling a bit, whatever, you know, but I had to stop and not just be thinking about me.
Yeah.
So
it's a great question. And I love that you're self-aware and you want to work on it, because that's half the battle right there.
Yeah. But we all, and like Scott said, you know, I hear often, you know, my addict partner is a narcissist, and I was like, has narcissistic traits, but if the narcissistic personality disorder, you know, I mean, there's a handful, but they don't care about ever getting help. So then you've got like zero hope, you know. But an addict can learn. We can learn. We can change. We're given tools to do it and support. Okay, my SAPA husband and I have separated for 9 months, and he hasn't taken any steps towards recovery, just SA 101 and a few Zoom meetings here and there. He insists that I was unfaithful first because I didn't connect with him. I tried with my whole heart. I tried to make him happy. I walked on eggshells for 11 years because he's blaming me. I wrote a list of boundaries last Friday. He won't talk to me about what he's planning to do, wondering if it's time for a divorce. It's been 9 months and he seems more angry every time he talks to me. So Dr. Rob, you can go back and watch this. This was on the webinar on Monday night. And he used language that I won't use here, but it was a similar type of thing. And I would ditto what he, like what my suggestion is, this person is giving you really clear data about his unwillingness to step into the relationship. So what do you need to do for you to have safe, emotional, financial, whatever, I mean, you know, physical safety. So he's blaming you. That's every addict. I mean, the blame shifting, gaslighting, you know, but yeah, you saw me catch when he said, you were unfaithful first because I didn't connect with him, and you tried. So this is him not connecting with you, but he can blame it on you. How convenient. So
yeah, and that's one of the things addicts do, is we blame you. You know, I'm sorry, I just want to validate for you. He insists that I was unfaithful first because I didn't connect with him. No, I just want to validate that for you. No, okay, just don't let, you know, no. You don't have to take that. Yeah, walking on eggshells for 11 years. Oh my God. I'm just, my heart is pounding for you. And I'm really glad you wrote a list of boundaries. I hope you either have a therapist, or you can take it to one of the support groups for betrayed partners and share that, and maybe even ask for feedback. Because I think other women in that situation, or a therapist who's really experienced, could really walk you through that list and help you 100% clarify for yourself what your boundaries truly are and are not. My experience with writing boundaries is I got to do it about 40 times before I get them right. And I need feedback from 39 people along the way before I get them right. So I hope you'll do that. I love that you've taken that first step by writing the list. We can't answer questions about, is it time for divorce? I don't know. Only you can decide that. But
I would comment too on the, he won't tell me what he's doing. So what do you need to do? I mean, and I have seen this, I can't tell you how many times, like a partner will get to the point where their head and their heart align, like their head knows something and their heart isn't ready yet. And their head and their heart align, and then they know what action is right for them at that time. So, whether it's right today or tomorrow or whatever, I think we all deserve to be in a relationship with a partner who is stepping into the relationship, is showing up for us,
right.
Not.
Yeah.
So whatever you need to do to take care of you.
And a proper boundary for he won't talk to me about what he's planning to do is when you won't tell me what you're planning to do for your recovery and our relationship, I feel really unsafe. I feel unloved. And it will cause me to seriously think about divorce, or I will ask you to move out of the house for a while, or et cetera.
He's already out. Yeah, they've been separated. So
okay,
yeah.
so
yeah.
Well, separated doesn't necessarily mean out, but so I've seen all kinds of arrangements.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, you can set a boundary around that. I would really like to know what your plan is for recovery and healing our relationship. If and when you don't share it with me, here's what I feel, and here are the actions that I will take so I can feel safe. That's a healthy thing for you to do. But this is why we kind of talk them through. We make sure we get it clear in our head, like Tammy said, with everything aligning, and then we kind of know. So yeah.
Okay, the next question: what is the main differences between Appsat and a CSAT? Is an Appsat better for a relationship after sobriety has been established? So I'm very familiar with both of these organizations and training. So the CSAT is a certified sex addiction therapist. It is an intensive training around sex addiction. They also have a partner specialty that's a little different lettering. Certified partner therapist, or I can't remember the letters. Appsat has shifted. There's a lot of people that are coaches. There are some people that are both CSAT and Appsat. That would be, more helpful to me. I struggle with people that are doing this work that don't have the mental health training. There's too much of this work that is, a coach is not qualified to talk about old trauma. I mean, they can talk about here's what you can do now and moving forward. It's very practical stuff. And unfortunately, they kind of can slip back into some things. So you have to be really careful. More than the credentials, like there are people within the CSAT community that I highly recommend. And then there are others that are not. So it is not just about who's, getting the right credentials. It really is about finding the right fit. But
and if you're looking for somebody, email us, click the contact us button. It'll go to Tammy, and she knows pretty much all of these people. And
I know a lot of them.
Somebody good in your area.
But an Appsat would be working with a partner. That's their I forgot, partner sex addiction therapist. So it's the association for So there's so many letters in this field, but yeah, CSAT is trained to work with the sex addiction, and they are trained, and they all, they're master's level clinicians or higher to start with, and then they can get the CSAT training. Appsat is not the same training, so it would be on a case by case basis. But you working with a CSAT, absolutely. They, they have online assessments that they can give you. They can really, if you haven't started doing that, like, I can't recommend that enough. That is, I think, a key component to helping things move forward. This is not a do-it-yourself project. I mean, that like, you really do need qualified professionals to help. Okay. How do I help my SA husband develop a more appropriate arousal template? Ooh, can I help him with this, or is it him? Does it change for an SA?
It's on him. I'll just be real quick with that. It's on him. Send him to either the sex addiction or the porn addiction work group. We talk about this. Yeah, it's on him. There's nothing.
Yes. And as Scott was saying a little bit ago, arousal template doesn't change. Right. What the actions, and I mean, your choices, can absolutely be within a recovery, even if, if the arousal template is such. So.
And just because it's in the arousal template doesn't mean it has to be acted on. There's tons of guys who are bisexual who are married to a woman, and they also have this other attraction. Like, well, okay, don't pretend you don't have it, but that doesn't mean you get to go have sex with the man and pretend it's not cheating. It's like your partner doesn't care what gender it is. I mean, she may care, but she cares that you're cheating and lying and keeping secrets about it. She could probably accept you as bisexual if you weren't cheating. So right. But that starts with you accepting yourself.
Right. Yeah. And it really is about, like, if you take away who someone is having sex with, it's about, they're still lying and cheating. So, it's a little bit of a distraction to go, is he, bisexual, gay, or whatever. It is, he is lying and cheating to himself and to you. So, and putting your health at risk, putting whatever. So addressing addressing that, and then see whatever happens. But, you got to do it in the right order. So, okay. Next question. I am an SA, and to keep information from my spouse longer than agreed upon, the 24 hours, sometimes for weeks. At this point, I don't know how my spouse can ever trust me. Someone suggested regular polygraphs. Oh, do you have any recommendations to rebuild trust?
Let's not discuss polygraphs. Tami and I disagree.
We won't.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done the research. So
yeah. One of the common boundaries that couples will implement, and I think it's a very, very good boundary, is, as an addict, if I fail to tell you something, which is a form of lying, secrets are a form of lying, or I simply lie to you, I have 24 hours to come clean about it. As long as I come clean within 24 hours, you won't get mad at me for initially keeping it from you. You can still get mad at me about what I was keeping secret, but you won't get mad at me because it took me 23 hours and 59 minutes to come clean. At 24 hours and 3 seconds, you can get mad about that too. That's a boundary that works for a lot of couples, because as addicts, we have an ingrained, deep pattern of lying and keeping secrets related to our addiction, but also related to everything. It just seeps out into every aspect of our life, and it takes time and effort. This is another one. It takes time and effort to break it. So this is a way for me to work on honesty while I'm still not perfect at it. Keeping it for longer than 24 hours, you're right. At this point, I don't know how my spouse can ever trust me. Hey, I don't either. If you want to rebuild relationship trust, and that is the key to rebuilding your relationship, you have to be rigorously honest, which means you tell the truth and you tell it faster. And you just have to continually work on it. But every time you blow that boundary, you're undoing, it's 2 steps forward and 1 7/8 steps back, or 2.5 back when you blow it, So yeah, the recommendation to rebuild trust is earn it. Start telling the truth. Be transparent in every aspect of your life. If you think your partner might want to know, you need to tell your partner. You need to give her access to your phone, to your email, to the financial accounts, to everything. You have to just become transparent and do your work, which means being rigorously honest. Any thoughts, Tami?
I do. You're gaining something by not telling. And so I think looking at what the secondary gain is by not telling, because there's something, like if you're fantasizing about the holding on to it or whatever, I don't know, like that was really for your qualified professional.
And sometimes it is, I just know she's going to be really angry about this and I don't want to sit through that. And that's
but
pretty
she's going to be
selfish,
really, she's going to be more
and she's going to
angry
be more
in 3
angry
weeks.
because you kept it
Yes.
secret.
So to me, it's like there's something going on with this pattern, or it's the, I deserve to have her never trust me. I don't know. So I would work with your qualified professional. And, I mean, it's one of those, I talked about the 10-step earlier, like if before you go to bed, you are taking your inventory, is there anything that you didn't say? Because if you do that every night, it's within 24 hours, So I would encourage you to be rigorously honest with yourself at the end of the day, taking your personal inventory. And if you need to clean something up, clean it up then. You'll sleep better. So, okay, next question. Can a man develop a sex addiction later in life due to explosion on the internet? Is it always due to early trauma?
Yes. Lots of guys, particularly in my porn addiction work groups, 60, 70, they never cheated on their wife until they retired. They had some extra free time and they started looking at porn, and then they were looking at it 6 hours a day, and it just went off the rails. But usually these guys have a history of numbing out one way or the other. They just discover a better substance or a more potent substance for them. Because usually there's some early life trauma. Nobody in this world does not have early life trauma. We all have it. Sometimes, we eat our feelings. Sometimes we, jog our feelings or exercise our feelings. Sometimes we, compulsively clean, or, there's 100 different ways we can kind of escape the shame and depression and anxiety that comes from our early life trauma. And then one day we discover crystal meth and it's this huge blast of escape, or we discover porn, which is a huge blast of escape. And the next thing we know, we've got an addiction. Happens all the time. I live in Palm Springs, California. It is a pretty gay-friendly town. It's also a retirement-friendly town. So we get a lot of these older gay men who move here after working at the bank for 40 years. And they got this, they got a lot of money, they get a nice house. They come out here, they meet some guy on, some app. And the guy brings meth, and he's a little younger, sometimes a lot younger. And 2 weeks later, these older men are, they've blown through their entire bank account, and, they're in the hospital because they had a heart attack from what they've been doing for 2 weeks or 2 months or however long. And they end up coming in recovered because they can't stop. So yeah, it happens, and it's sad when it happens, but it happens. And the internet does not help. So.
No, access, anonymity, and affordability are the engine of addiction. Yeah. So yeah, the internet made it super easy. Okay, we have 2 more questions in 4 minutes. My 32-year-old and I have done, for 32 years, I have done shady things with money. I am a recovering alcoholic, 6 years. My addiction morphed into lying, live chat sites, porn. In the process, I invested in schemes that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. I hid this from my wife for 2 years. I actually lost my grip on reality, basically. I have been, for our entire marriage, really good at lying and hiding. Is building trust even possible under these conditions? Yes. If you've come clean with all of, yes. Are you rigorously honest now? So what are your
fully
thoughts?
Fully disclose everything, to the best of your ability. I spent approximately this much. I blew through the kids' college fund, which happens, sadly. And you need to just be really, really financially transparent. You say you hid it from your wife for 2 years. You can't hide it anymore. You may have to give her control of the finances for her to feel safe. But your willingness
and for your safety.
Yeah, for yours too. But your willingness to do that suggests, you know, that you want to be trusted, you want to earn trust. And here, I'm just giving you the finances. If you have any questions, let me know. You know, I'll you know, but you got to be in charge. You know, money is, I don't get to handle the money anymore. You know, she can give
Yeah.
you an allowance, whatever.
Yeah, and the online, so passwords to all the technology and having the filters where your sponsor or therapist is, you know, watching that. So you have the accountability and just, you know, it doesn't stop you from doing it, but hopefully you think about it.
Just so you know, you do not get to have a sneaky bank account that she doesn't know about. She will
Or a
find
second
it. phone
or,
Right.
yes, yeah.
So yeah.
If you want to rebuild trust,
Mhm.
you got to do the work. It's no sneaky anythings.
Okay, one more here.
If she caught you doing it,
Mhm.
it's, you know, like
And even if
just
she,
know you're
even
going to
if
get
she didn't
caught.
catch
You're
you.
going to get caught. Yeah,
Yeah.
but just know you're going to get caught. So just don't do it, you know? So,
Yeah.
okay. I bookend with my wife every time I go out of the house for events or chores. It gives her some safety and wants me to do it, but often comes across as a repetitive ticking a box from me and leaves her feeling uncertain if I'm being truthful. Me just saying I have no triggers feels weak. Oh, wow. You'd be like, I mean, sorry, but like no triggers?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Is there better ways I could bookend?
Yes. First of all, I don't usually recommend that addicts bookend with their partners. I recommend bookending with a sponsor or someone else in recovery. The way we do it is I call Tammy and say, Tammy, I got to go to this event tonight. Susie from accounting is going to be there. You know about Susie. I can't avoid this event. So here are the things I'm going to do at the event to stay sober, X, Y, and Z. And if I start to feel really uncomfortable, I will text you. And if you tell me to leave, I will make up an excuse and leave.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will text you when I get home, except I have to drive past, you know, that place with the strippers on the way home. So maybe I'll call you and you can walk me past that place. If you're bookending it, you're going to be triggered. Now, your wife, you're bookending with your wife every time you go out of the house for events, chores, whatever. It gives her some sense of safety and she wants you to do it. Okay, great. Just say, here's where I'm going. Possible triggers might be X, Y, and Z. Here is what I will do if I encounter one of those possible triggers. I will text you. I will text my sponsor. Preferably your sponsor, by the way. Your wife does not usually want to know every time you've been triggered. It's going to make her crazy. But telling you had no triggers, it does feel weak because it probably is a little weak. I'm sorry, I'm 20 years sober. I get triggered every time I walk out of the house, pretty much. You know, I'm used to it. I know how to deal with it. But, you know, so you can tell her, you know, here is what I will do if I'm triggered. And if you get home and you say, I had to do this because I was triggered, you know, you can see how she responds to that. She may or may not actually want that information. And you'll have to ask her, after, you know, do it a couple of times because she says she wants it. But then you'll have to say, are you comfortable getting this level of information? If you are, I will continue. If you're not, I will continue sharing it with my sponsor and I will simply let you know that I stayed sober. So yeah, there's a better way to do it. And the better way to do it involves someone in recovery rather than your spouse. But if she wants you to bookend that way, I know guys who go to 12-step meetings who used to act out when they said they were going to 12-step. So now they take a picture of their feet in the room and it's time and date stamp in the middle of the meeting. So they're, you know, so their wife knows they're there. That's what their wife needs from them. So, you know.
But with this person has said a few things, and I hear a lot of my wife and me, and I don't hear my qualified professional, my 12-step support, my peer groups. I'm doing the work group for sex addiction. Those guys often form some peer connections. You know, hopefully you're doing the drop-in groups on our site on sexandrelationshiphealing.com and making connections with that. You getting support for you that isn't your wife. She's not your parent. She's not your, I mean, I've said to a partner not too long ago, I was like, you need a partner, not a project. So you know, she doesn't need you to be her project. Yeah. She deserves to grieve, get her support, do her healing, and with other people who are betrayed, and you need to do the work for you with other people who are in recovery
Yeah.
on the journey. So
Yeah, and this goes for everybody on this meeting. If you're an addict, you need a posse of people in recovery. If you're a betrayed partner, you need a posse of recovering betrayed partners. You need a posse because right now the two of you can't provide the things that you normally would because of the betrayal. So,
and he adds that she wants bookending. I would talk to her and say, do you really want bookending? Because this is, you know,
yeah.
she's
Okay. Or
feeling
ask
like
her,
it's just
ask
checking.
her,
Yeah, is
ask
there a
her
different way
what
to do
bookending
this?
means to her.
Yes, or
So,
if I bookend with my sponsor, would that be better? So yeah.
yeah.
So, okay, we're out of time. So thank you. Thanks for letting me
Thank you,
hang out.
everybody.
Dr. David will be back. He was enjoying a little bit of time off. So I'm happy to hang out, and always a delight to work with you. So we do joke around, but we are good teammates too. But
Yes,
yeah,
we are.
so
We love working together.
okay.
So, all right, we'll see you next week, and be well.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.